Okay, so for our next problem, we are going to solve the absolute value of 2y minus 7 minus 3 is less than or equal to 0. So the first thing we want to do again is we want to move this negative 3 over to the opposite side. So we are going to add 3 to both sides, always trying to get our absolute value by itself. So this is going to give us the absolute value of 2y minus 7 is less than or equal to 3. Again, at this point we want to stop and look at our inequality that we're working with and kind of decide what it's going to look like on our graph. So remember, since it is less than means that we are going to shade between our two numbers. So on our graph, that's going to look like a bracket on one side and a bracket on the other. Again, the reason we're using brackets in this particular case is we are less than or equal to. And then again, this is our low value. This is our high value. Now we continue working. We're going to make our negative equation and our positive equation so that we can find these lows and these highs that we need to know. So our negative equation is going to be 2y minus 7 is equal to negative 3. And our positive is going to be 2y minus 7 is equal to a positive 3. Now we're going to solve each one of these equations. So here we're going to add 7 to both sides. And 2y is going to equal a positive 4. Then we're going to divide both sides by 2. And y is going to equal 2. Do the same thing over here on our positive side. Here we're going to add 7 to both sides. So 2y will equal 10. And then we're going to divide both sides by 2. So we get that y equals 5. So now we know that our high is 2 and our low is 5. And we can go on to graphing our problem and then writing in our interval notation. So again, here's our low value at 2, our high value at 5. Remember, because we're doing a less than, this problem is going to be shading between the two numbers. So we're going to shade from 2 to 5. And then because we are less than or equal to, we have a bracket at 2 and a bracket at 5. So now from our graph, we can very easily tell what our interval notation is going to be. So we're going to go from 2 to 5, putting a bracket on either side of our interval notation. And then we're going to do our algebraic. Remember, for our algebraic for one of these problems, it's that compound inequality. So we're going to start at 2. That's going to be less than or equal to our x, which is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so for our last problem that we're going to deal with, we have the 3 times the absolute value of y minus 3 minus 9 is greater than or equal to 0. Again, to start this problem, we need to isolate the absolute value of y minus 3. So we're going to add 9 to both sides. So that is going to give us 3 times the absolute value of y minus 3 is greater than 9. Again, we want to make sure to get the absolute value by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by 3. So we have the absolute value of y minus 3 is greater than 3. Again, looking at this problem, we want to talk about this greater than symbol. Again, if it's greater than, that means that we are going to be shading on the outsides of our numbers. So our graph, and then because we're doing greater than, we're going to have our parentheses, and then we're going to shade to the left of our low and to the right of whatever our higher number is. In order to find that low and the high, we need to find our negative and our positive equations and solve those too. So remember our negative, all we're going to change is that 3. So we're going to say y minus 3 is equal to a negative 3. For our positive, y minus 3 is equal to a positive 3. And now we just need to solve each one of these. Here we're going to add 3 to both sides. So we're going to end up with y equal to 0. Again, we're going to add 3 to both sides. So our high is going to be y equals to 6. Again, I like to do this from a graph. I just think it makes it so much easier when we look at these on graphs. So here is 0, here is 6, and remember we are shading to the outside because we're looking at a greater than. So we're going to shade to the left of 0, to the right of 6. And then because we're doing just a greater than, we're going to use a parentheses at 0 and a parentheses at 6. So for our interval notation, we need to use again that union because we have two separate areas of our graph. So we're going to have our lower side here from negative infinity up to 0 using a parentheses on both sides. And then our higher side is going to be a 6 to infinity, again a parentheses on both sides. And then lastly for our algebraic notation, again we're going to need two different things. We're going to connect them with the word or, and we're going to have that x is less than 0 or x is greater than 6.